Good morning, everyone. My name is Dick Fleming. In 1967, 1968, I was a member of a long-range reconnaissance team, Force Recon. We were a six-man unit, and I thought that you might be interested in some of my stories. I came across my old bush hat the other day, and these memories have been floating around in my head for quite a while. And about 10 years ago, I wrote a book called Chasing Charlie about my experiences in the Marine Corps and my experiences with Force Recon. But I have a lot more stories, and I'm not getting any younger. So I thought I'd share them with you while I'm still around. Well, the story I'm going to tell you about today happened when we were stationed at Anwa, which is a real hellhole of a place. We were rocketed nearly every night when we were there. It was surrounded by mountains, and you could see the rockets coming in as they were fired from the hills overlooking our base. It was a fire base for artillery, and it was an airstrip. I guess maybe 20 miles northwest of Da Nang, maybe closer to the Cambodian border, Laos-Cambodian border. We used to run our missions out of there along the Ho-Chi-Minh Trail, and it was quite active for the NBA at that time. In 1967, 1968, of course, was probably the bloodiest period of the Vietnam War. So we were coming in from a patrol, and we had just gotten in, and we're just getting our gear straightened out when the major ordered us to come into the briefing room, and they had a new mission for us. And normally we got a couple days off at least between missions, but in this case, apparently we weren't going to get them. When you came into the operations area, the major told us that a grunt unit had been attacked on the border of Laos and Cambodia, on the border southwest of us, actually. And they had lost several men, and unfortunately were forced to leave one of their men behind. It was a fierce fight, and they had to withdraw under superior odds. And our mission, the major described to us, would be to get as much information as we could about what happened out there, and of course retrieve the body of the fallen Marine. Marines hate to leave their men behind, whether they're wounded or they've been killed. You know, we bring our dead back with us, and in this case it just wasn't possible. And one of the missions of Force Recon was to extract down pilots and retrieve anybody who was captured or wounded or that we had to leave behind. And in this case, it was an unfortunate incident that the Marine was killed. We were introduced to a member of the grunt unit. He was a big Italian guy. He looked like he knew what he was doing in the bush, and he was going to lead us to where the ambush took place. And so we finished up the briefing. The major told us that they didn't expect any contact because the area had been saturated with tear gas, crystallized tear gas. And also the Air Force had defoliated the area with Agent Orange a few days earlier, immediately after the attack, because they wanted to drive the NVA away from that position. So we thought, well, this might be a relatively straightforward operation if we weren't going to run into any enemy. So we went back outside and continued getting ready for our mission, and we talked about how we were going to handle it. And one of the problems was that this new man who was going to be guiding us, this new Marine who was going to be guiding us, had no experience rappelling into the jungle. And rappelling is not a skill that you can pick up in a day or two. You need to practice it constantly, and we just didn't have the time. So what we thought we'd do is lower him from the front deck of the C-46, from the front door, by the winch, and then we would rappel out of the bottom where there was an entry port in the bottom of the C-46 that we could rappel out of. The jungle canopy at the time was just too thick for the helicopter to land. So we finished getting our gear together, and we got the corporal was assigned to guide us, equipped as well. The riggers had rigged up for us a strap to our web gear, a special web gear that we could attach a line and attach with a carabiner in case we needed to be extracted by a rope. There were a number of extraction methods that we used. We called them the ladder or the rope. In the early days, of course, we had another way of being winched up, which I'll describe in another video. But in any case, we got him all set up. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He was an experienced combat Marine, and we didn't think we'd have any problem. We also took gas masks along with us, of course, because we knew that we'd run into that tear gas, and that was something we never really carried. The gas masks weren't necessary in general, so we had to get those from the supply hooch, and we equipped ourselves. Each one of the men had its own gas masks. So we called in the birds and went into the landing zone and got onto the C-46s. There were a couple of gunships that came in and were going to be escorting us into the area. It was a small hill that had been where the ambush took place, and everything worked pretty well right off the bat. We managed the C-46 hovered over the top of the hill, and we got ready to rappel out. And at the same time, the gunships came in and strafed the bottom of the hill, circular pattern around the hill with rockets to prevent any NVA from coming in and seeing where we landed and coming up to attack us up the hill. So we rappelled down, and as soon as we hit the ground, our boots hit the crystals of tear gas, and the vapors came up. And we put on our gas masks, and they worked pretty well. We didn't experience any problems from the gas, but of course we could only see a small portion out of the eyepiece of the gas mask, and that was something that was different for us and bewildering in a way, because you couldn't see to either side. You really couldn't see all that much from the front either. The terrain had been completely killed off by the Agent Orange. The trees were completely brown. The leaves on the trees were completely brown. All of the branches, even though it had only been a few days, they were crunching underfoot. They had been killed off very quickly, and now the entire area was tinder dry and just open to the tremendous heat coming down from the sun. It was very hot, and we couldn't really see where we were going. It wasn't pleasant. But we got our gear together. We got everybody together, and the corporal started leading us down to where he knew the ambush had taken place. And it took us about a half an hour or so to go down the hill. And he knew where he was leading us, and we soon came to a kind of an open area where a tremendous firefight had taken place. You could see the trees were blasted, and rounds were covering the ground, but we didn't see any body. We didn't even see any blood, but it had rained the previous night, so any blood would have been washed away. But we continued a systemized search to try to find out what happened and try to locate this Marine who had been killed in the ambush. And we searched for about 15 minutes, and we couldn't really see anything. We looked for maybe he had been dragged away, or there had been clothing, or marks on the ground, something that would indicate what happened. But we didn't see anything. But we continued to search. And then suddenly our radio man called the sergeant over. So we always went out with him. At the time, we were going out with sergeants leading the team. I was running assistant patrol leader at the time. The radio man told the sergeant, he said, "Get out of there! You guys got to get out of there right now, because the rockets that we fired ignited all of the underbrush around you." Well, we started moving up, walking back up the hill, gathering everybody together and turning around and moving up the hill. And the guy, the Cobra pilot, came in and said, you got to move, boys. You got to get out of there. So we started running up the hill, and of course it was hard going, through the underbrush and the heat and trying to wear the gas masks. Couldn't really see where we were going. We knew we were moving uphill. And then all of a sudden behind us, we could actually hear the fire crackling and burning. And it hit that dry underbrush that the Agent Orange had just killed off and turned into tinder. And so we really started to move. And the corporals, he was having a hard trouble keeping up with us, and we were pushing him up the hill. And he was saying, "I can't go any further, can't go any further." We kept on pushing him up. "Yes, you can. Just keep on going, buddy. We're going to make it out of here." So we got near the top of the hill and called in for the C-46 to drop the line that we used to get out. And the line came down, and it had a series of carabiners every 10 feet or so. And as the line came down, and everybody hit their carabiner onto the line. And as soon as we did that, you could hear the fire behind us, because the air blast, the prop blast from the helicopter was just fanning the flames. It was sort of keeping them down for a moment, but it was really feeding air into those flames that were encircling us all around. Well, this poor corporal, he had no idea what was going on. And I took him and I turned him around, and I took the carabiner and I clipped it onto his web gear. And as soon as I did, we gave the signal for the helicopter pilot to take us up. And he did, full speed. We were yanked off the ground, all of us, the entire team, in one long string. And as he pulled away, we could see the entire hillside just burst into flame, a big cloud of black smoke coming up all around us. We just got out of there in time. Well, the corporal was sitting there in the C-46, and he had his head in his hands, and my friend Bo, went over to him and thought he was thinking about his friend, and he said, "Don't worry, buddy," patted him on the shoulder. "Don't worry, buddy. As soon as that fire comes down, we're going to go back in and continue our search for your friend." And the corporal looked up at him and he goes, "Not with me, you won't go back there." He goes, "You guys are crazy. I'm not going back with you again." And that was the end of that patrol. And that was one of the things that one of my stories. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button and the subscribe button, and we'll see if we can ferret out a few more for you. Thank you.